Have you ever thought that even a bee, these little workers for their tireless, able to recognize the smell of regret? It seems like something from the movie, but the story I'm going to have to tell you really happened, and it's so absurd that it looks like the output of a comedy god. Imagine the scene, in a tranquil setting, with the wind whispering through the trees, the smell of the hay is in the air and the sound of whispering from the bee buzzing as the orchestra for peace. It is in this bucolic setting it all starts with a quiet night and the silence, like so many others who seem to get by without a big one. But, as in life, the unexpected is always lurking, hiding in the shadow of your daily routine. And this is where they will be presented in a figure, for a moment, seems to be lost, in time and in space. A man, with an expression that is a mixture of confidence and candor, it appears, telling you that you came to help in the harvest. It seems like a good intent, you know? But you do not know is that behind that facade of a farm worker, he was hiding a surprise that it was going to turn the story on its head. Have you ever gone through a situation in which you felt that things were going to be all right, that he was just an ordinary day, but all of a sudden it all turned into a chaotic mess? As it is, this story begins with a promise of help and hope, that everything was going to be a quiet place. However, this man didn't know, or maybe he knew it, but she thought that she could pass unnoticed, is that the universe had plans and a lot more fun, and, at the same time, the severe in him. And what happened next? Ah, my friend, this is where the story gets really fun, and at the same time it is full of lessons that you might not have thought of. You'll find out that at times, the target uses humor so the acid that is not your own bees and beyond to recognize and attend to the scene. It is as if, in that moment, everything was written down by a greater force, a force which he likes to toy with our expectations, and learn, in a way that was well, and continues to be written, that is, at times, greed and ingenuity go hand in hand in hand. Stay with me until the very end, because that's the story of a knight of peace, who has become a true comedy of errors. It will surprise you in a way you never thought possible. You're going to see that in your life, even those who try to steal the honey, eventually leading to a shower of mud or dung, which serves as a good lesson for all of us. And, in the end, you may find that the biggest mood in this story is not found in the rough in and of itself, but the way of the universe, he resolved to give its verdict. And, well, the surprise is coming your way. Get ready, because the next thing that happens is the one true lesson of karma, with a touch of poetry and humor, and, of course, with a touch of a stench that only the living can give you. As we dive deeper into this story, it is clear that the universe has its own way of teaching, often in a way that causes us to reflect on our own actions and choices. You might also have noticed something like this in your life, moments when everything seems to fall apart suddenly and as if in a silent response to that is, unconsciously, to Karagavamos in all of us. It is at these times that of the us, so I think, even if for a moment on what really matters to you, on what we are feeding on any of our expectations, and, above all, about our connection to the world around us. And at this rate, each and every one of these experiences, no matter how difficult it may be, turns out to be an opportunity for growth. Do you ever feel that, sometimes, it's a simple situation, you can open a window to a deeper understanding? Perhaps it is there that the universe is inviting us to look more closely at the details of our reactions, and perhaps even for the small to big changes in what we can do in our daily lives. Because, at the end of the day, it's all connected. Our actions, our feelings, and the consequences of which, at times, they seem to come out of nowhere, but in truth, they carry a lot more meaning than what we can ever imagine. If all of this has made any sense to you, leave us a comment of what you touch him you don't want it all up with loving care. Sharing these experiences, it strengthens our connection and it shows that we are not alone in this journey. And, of course, if you feel that this talk makes no sense, enjoy the video for more people to be able to reflect with us. Here, every voice and every gesture of support to help spread this message, and that is just as ours as much as one of them. And if you want to continue with those thoughts, enjoy and subscribe to the channel. Thus, we are able to create a community in which every step is an opportunity to learn and to change. Right now, for us to continue to deepen this topic, there's something even more important what you need to understand. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because, in fact, that often prevent you from seeing this truth, the essence that lies behind our actions and choices. It's just the way that we connect with what is real or imagined. And, in this connection, such a bridge is to recognize that we have created. It is often built up in layers of fear, the uncertainty, the expectations that have been imposed upon, or that we have incurred in the course of time without realizing it. We live in a kind of routine mental, as if he was stuck in a loop where the doubt and anxiety, they become constant companions, it is difficult to clarity and connection to the things that really matter. And so, we believe that the truth is the one thing that can be seen or touched, and that our happiness is dependent on external factors, such as, in the opinion of others, of goods, materials, and determination. But, in essence, that this is all an illusion that takes us away from our true essence, that the nucleus is silent, it's always been there, just waiting for an opportunity to be heard. This is the core, this is the deepest part of us, in a whisper who dares to make their voices heard, even when you're distracted or too busy with the noise of the world. And this is where comes the need for a real connection with one's inner self, a listener, honest, unfiltered, and without masks. When we can silence the noise outside, something magical happens. We become able to see that the truth is not an idea, but an experience, one that reveals itself in every moment, in every decision. It's like a light that shines gently, but it is often hidden behind layers of doubts and limitations. And in that light, when he is discovered, he has the power to change everything around you, because it connects us with what is most authentic in all of us. And there you have it, the people. Understand what is the real difference is not in what we have achieved on the outside, but on our ability to be faithful to the truth within. When we act in line with it, we feel lighter, more authentic, more and more connected with the world around us. But that takes courage, because it is often easier to go with the flow than to challenge our own beliefs and paradigms. It is like taking a journey of self-discovery, continuous, in which each step leads us to a deeper understanding of who you are, in fact, in addition to the masks that we wear to protect ourselves. And to this day is, at its core, a quest for freedom and for authenticity, a sense that goes beyond the surface and the opinion of others. To understand this, we understand that our strength lies in our vulnerability, in our provision for us to show up as our true selves, without the masks, without the fear of being judged. Because, deep down, what really matters is that the connection is sincere with our lives, the courage to look inward and acknowledge that it is often avoided, that we are in a state of constant transformation, in the search for meaning and peace of mind. And this, when done with sincerity, and it brings us closer more and more, a fact that can't be broken, a substance that has never ceased to exist, even when we try to deny it or hide it underneath layers of opinions and ideas. And so, to understand this truth, it's a journey of inner discovery that the daily is the first step to liberation. It is true. It is as if the recognition of this is the light that dwells within us. We begin to walk in with more confidence, knowing that, even in the face of difficulties, and to our essence is intact, just waiting for you to let out. And, in doing so, we can see that all the answers that we are looking out there, it has always been inside waiting to be revealed when we allow our most true to come to the fore. Because, at the end of the day, all of the things that really makes us is born from the inside to the outside, of a heart silent, to be ourselves, with a genuine desire to find out what is the most beautiful and true in our hearts and minds. And it is, without a doubt, the greatest gift we can give to ourselves and to the world around us. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. As it is, this is a journey of self-discovery, to dive into the depths of who we are. Indeed, many times, he reveals to us the truths that we would prefer to conceal, that the us, in essence, that it seems hard to accept at first. But it is in this confrontation that we can begin to understand that the greatest power lies in our vulnerability, the courage to look at what you don't like it, the willingness to embrace our imperfections as an essential part of our growth. Because, deep down, all of the things that keeps us from moving forward too many times, it's a lie that we tell ourselves, the mask we wear to hide what you feel for the truth of a belief in limited, which builds on our minds and makes us doubt our potential. And it is, without a doubt, the greatest gift we can give to ourselves and to the world around us, the freedom to be yourself, to be free from the bonds that we have created out of fear or confusion. The truth is that when we discover our lives, everything around us is getting a new color, a new texture. We walk along the road which, at first, it appears to be difficult to follow, and full of internal barriers that seem insurmountable, but which, in fact, are the starting point for a transformation to be real. Every doubt, every fear, every doubt, feel the soul. It is an opportunity for us to connect more deeply with who we really are, understand that everything that limits us, it is also the thing that can set us free. It's as if when you look in the mirror of the soul, and we could see a version that is closer to the truth of ourselves, the version that does not require approval of the foreign, that is not looking for validation of the label success, but it is in your power, in your acceptance of all that is going on inside of us. And, in the course of this journey, we have realized that the greatest battle is not against the outside world, but for the things that we carry within, and against our own shadows, to insist on the charge, make us to doubt the value of what you do have. This is where it comes to the importance of having a growth mindset, a willingness to learn from our own mistakes, to understand that each and every fall is a chance for us to stand up stronger and more aware. Because, deep down, this is the journey of the evolution of construction daily. With a choice of constant, open yourself up to the unknown. We assume that we don't have all the answers, but that we trust in what we feel, our intuition, our inner truth. And it is this confidence that gives us the courage to continue, to move forward, even when things seem uncertain, because we all know that the biggest secret to it is in our very essence, the strength that comes from within. And, in the process, we can begin to understand that our history is not only about the challenges and accomplishments, but also about the deep connection that we make with the things that make us vibrate with what really matters to you. We find that the impact of a decision, a change in attitude, can have an effect far beyond what we imagine, touching the lives of the shape, are invisible, but still powerful. This understanding leads us to a greater responsibility to live a more self-aware, to act with authenticity, and to make choices that are in alignment with our true purpose. Because, at the end of the day, life is a series of small decisions that, taken together, they build a narrative and a unique story that only you can tell in the way it deserves to be told. And, in doing so, we note that the biggest key to a full life that is not in the search of something outside of us, but for us to reconnect with our essence, with everything that you will actually move you to our most pure. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, in the sense that, when you dive into our very essence, we begin to see beyond the surface, beyond the masks that we wear to protect ourselves, and we realize that we are so much more than the opinions or expectations of others. We are a sum total of the experiences, emotions, and dreams that appear to be far apart, but when they connect, they create an irresistible force in the transformation. This strength comes from the understanding that all that we live in, no matter how difficult it may be, it is a part of the process of becoming who we really are. And that the world may try to convince us to the contrary, our most important responsibility is to the truth of our essence, authentic, because only in that way we were able to create a life that is truly meaningful to us. When you stop to think about it, we realize that every step you take, every decision, even in the simplest of things, are part of a great work of self-discovery, where each piece of the nodes is the key to all of this. And, at this point, many of the times, a question unspoken: are we really living up to who we are, or just following a script that has been imposed? To this question, even though it may seem simple, it carries a depth that can transform your entire perception of life. Because you are, in essence, what is stopping us from being free. It is our resistance to accept the fact that we may all be different, and what we can change, we can rewrite our history at any given time. The real evil lies in the courage to give up the old stories that we tell, to challenge our own limiting beliefs, and creating a new script, with more authenticity, more self-love, more aligned with what we feel to be on our way. Well aware of that, no matter how challenging that might be, it's an open door to a new era where we become the protagonist of your own life, and is able to turn every moment into an opportunity to grow, connect, and heal. And, when you think about all of this, we see that life is, in its essence, the most pure. It is a constant quest for authenticity, and a genuine connection with, and what we really are. Every discovery, every release, every tiny victory inner, it is a confirmation that we are on the right path, even though sometimes the path seems difficult. Because, deep down, all of the things that we do to move forward is the desire to be true to ourselves. Don't lose sight of who we really are, even in the face of adversity. And in that quiet strength, the courage that comes from the inside, this is the one that leads us to the following: to trust in the process, and to understand that every transformation begins from the inside to the outside, all the time. And when you embrace this fact, we realize that our most important mission is to take care of your heart, to listen to our soul, and, above all, to believe that the real change is possible, and that it is a daily choice, a decision, and live with more authenticity, more love, more connection with all that is beautiful in our lives. And when you embrace this fact, we realize that our most important mission is to take care of your heart, to listen to our soul, and, above all, to believe that the real change is possible, and that it is a daily choice, a decision, and live with more authenticity, more love, more connection with all that is beautiful in our lives. But in this journey, even though it may seem simple at first glance, it often proves to be a path fraught with obstacles. It is not always possible to see it right away. These are the obstacles that will, in fact, we challenge you to dive a little bit deeper, to question our own beliefs, to compare it to what you have always accepted it as the truth, even when it is over the limit, stopping us from moving forward. And it is at this point that we begin to understand that the enemy of our progress is not in the outside world, but the only thing that we have inside of us, an invisible, silent, often unconsciously. Those limiting beliefs, those fears that lurk in the corners of the deepest, you have a force that is subtle, almost invisible, But if it is still not recognized, you can make it like a shadow that darkens everything around us, making our light can shine with all its intensity. And, in the pursuit of freedom for the authenticity, many of the times we come across with the strength that it looks like most of the things we hope for, such as if an inner voice tell you that you're not able to, and that's never going to change, and that we are doomed to repeat the same pattern every time. This is where comes the power of our conscious decision, that which is born of the realization that all the things that we want to transform it begins inside of us, in our minds, in our way of looking at the world, not only in our ability to understand what that limit is, in fact, an illusion created by the narrative and which we have learned that we can write back. And, if you make this choice, we realize that our story is not written in stone. They can be the authors of our own destiny, even if the path may seem unclear, or that is in the shadows of the past, will entice you to want to drag us back. Each and every step of courage, each act of self-love is a seed that is planted in the fertile ground of our soul, and with all the time, those seeds bloom into a new reality, a reality where fear can give way to hope, where the question turns on trust, vulnerability becomes a strength. After all, this is the true magic of the transformation that happens when you decide to reconnect us with our inner selves, when we stop seeking out the things that we could only be found within, when you are learning to look back on with fondness to their own successes and failures as a part of the process of lifelong learning. And, as we walk through this journey of self-discovery, we've begun to realize that all the things that once seemed so far away, so out of reach, make sense of, because we understand that change is not an isolated event, but a constant movement, a dance, to explore who we are and who we can become. At this point, it's clear that it's the true transformation is not imposed by the external force that forces us to make a change, but the desire built, with a genuine desire to evolve, to be free, to embrace the unknown with courage and hope. And this is the hug that you find on our authenticity is our most pure, and the one that reminds us that we are made of light, of love, and of a power that has never died, and it was asleep for a long time, waiting for the right time to wake up. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because, many times, this is a journey of transformation. He allows us to face our own shadows, of those parts of ourselves that would rather hide it, deny it, or avoid it. And it is precisely the inclusion of these eyeshadows, love, and compassion, we begin to realize that they, too, are a part of our continued growth. We are not only light, but also darkness, and to bring them, we are beings of a more complete, more whole. After all, it is the true freedom is born out of that understanding, and accepting who we are in all of our complexity, with no judgment, no condemnation, only to have the courage to look inside and see all the things that, at times, we would prefer to conceal. And, when the latter happens, the magic is revealed, the power of transforming pain into wisdom, fear, courage, strength, force. Each and every scar that you carry, each and every tear that we shed, this is a proof that we are alive. We are in a process of continuous evolution, of which the history is being written every day, the colors of our authenticity and courage. And, at this point, we see that the change is not a final destination but a journey, a trend that never ends, because the universe, in its infinite wisdom, as well as offers new lessons and new opportunities for growth, if we are open to receive them. Therefore, it is our mission becomes clear. It is to grow inside of us, that the force of the will, and this is the belief that we are capable of rewriting our history in the morning, and of which we are all artists of our own lives, and that, at the bottom of all things that we've already reside in our lives, just waiting for you to have the courage to wake up to that fact. And, as we walk through this journey of self-discovery, we've learned to appreciate every step you take, every drop, and with every win, because they are the ones that shape who we are and who we get closer to our true selves. And then, when you realize all of this, it becomes easier to understand that our most important revolution to happen is not outside, but within us, in our ability to transform, to choose, to believe it. Because, after all, nothing is more powerful than the mind, which shall, in the heart flashes of hope, and a soul that never ceases to believe in the possibility of a new beginning. And, when you think about all of this, we see that the greatest secret of living a full and authentic, it is precisely the courage to look in the mirror and realize that, yes, we will be your best version every day, and if we give ourselves permission to be free. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. It's sometimes we get so caught up in the illusion that the outside world is the one that really determines our happiness, we forget that it all begins within ourselves. That invisible force that moves us, that challenges us to make progress on our ability to turn thoughts into action and dreams into reality, and fear into courage. And, this transformation often requires a decision to be silent, to a choice in which only those who truly want to change, unable to do, to leave the comfort zone, let go of what is familiar, even if it hurts to hug, something new, something vibrant to the truth in our hearts. Because, deep down, This is the most important truth that no one teaches you, but at some point, we feel that true freedom is born from within, out of the mindset that if you refuse to accept the limits imposed by our own doubts or by the opinions of others. This is where it all starts to make sense when we understand that the universe conspires to help those who choose to trust in his own strength, in their essence, in their authenticity. And it is this force. It is not something that is achieved from one day to the next, but it's a building and a daily decision to stay strong even when it all seems to come crashing down. Look inward and discern the hidden potential behind your fears, expectations, and standards, which have been brought about by a society that often tries to fit in boxes that are predefined. We understand that this is a journey of self-discovery. It is, in fact, in a constant search for you reconnect with the things that are true, everything will become lighter and more flexible. Because of the open space in this connection, we realize that our borders are not, in fact, the boundaries, but the boundaries that we can grow, one step at a time. And this expansion is a kind of a silent revolution, which takes place in the soul, the mind, and the way you look at life. And the more we allow ourselves the freedom to be who you really are, the more you feel that all around you are also transformed. The relationships, the dreams, the way we think about obstacles are no longer something foreign, and will be a reflection of a heart inside of a decision to no longer hide behind excuses, or as a routine that, in fact, it is the prison we create for ourselves. So, at this point, we realize that the most important achievement is not to gain something out there, but to achieve something in it, a peace that comes from knowing that we are aligned with our truth and our own deepest values. It is this authenticity is what gives us the strength to keep on going even when everything seems to be uncertain, because we know that we are on the right path, the one that's in our soul chose you even before we were born. And you know, this is in connection with the purpose. It is a light that never goes out, even on the darkest nights. Because you are, in essence, it all boils down to one thing, the courage to be who you are, to take over our history, without masks, without the fear of appearing vulnerable, because it is precisely that vulnerability that we find our true strength. And then, when you see this, things start to make sense of it all as getting a new color, a new rhythm, a new hope that we can build a life that is really worth the effort, for a life that is in us, with all of their faults, their doubts, and their in-game achievements. I now want to go more in depth on this issue. Because if you think about it well, this is the process of self-discovery is a journey that never ends. It's a sort of endless loop of rebirth. Each time we allow ourselves to look inward and acknowledge that it really doesn't matter, we have opened a door to a new version of ourselves. And this is the door, it opens, and a conscious decision to put the past behind us, not to hold to the expectation of others, and of the limitations that we have created with our own hands. It is as if, by making this choice, we are placing a foundation stone in the construction of a life more in tune with our inner selves, to a life that is vibrant of the truth, which is brimming with hope, and, above all, to make us feel alive. And the feeling of being alive, of being connected with what is deepest in us, this is the one that gives meaning to all of this. Because, in the end, it all comes down to one simple, yet powerful truth. That is our greatest strength lies in the courage to be ourselves. We allow ourselves to feel, you make a mistake, learn from, and, above all, of never giving up of being who we really are. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And as this realization sets in, slowly, as the light will be lighting up inside of you, it becomes clear that the path to that authenticity is not a straight line, or on a journey, without any obstacles. In fact, it is a kind of dance, and subtle, in which each step is a discovery, a reaffirmation of that in the world, to try us, to mold, to the core, he always finds a way to manifest itself. And in the process, it is often a silent, that we begin to see beyond the masks that we wear, in addition to the opinions of others, in addition to what we have been taught to believe is right or wrong. The truth is, in essence, we are all in a sort of mosaic, formed from the fragments of experiences, dreams, fears, and hopes. And then, when we allow ourselves to recognize each and every one of these pieces, we can begin to understand who they are. Somehow, they've always been there, waiting for the time to fit it all in with our narrative. This is not the case at one time or another. It is a construction site daily, with a choice of the constant look out for with the courage and compassion. Each and every decision, to be very honest about our feelings, to admit our vulnerability, and accept that we do not have all the answers, but it's a piece that fits into the jigsaw puzzle of our true nature. And, in doing so, one is freed from the bonds which hold us to a life that, more often than not, it is our own, but the one that has been imposed by a society that values perfection, the look and feel, and to be in compliance. The real power comes when you realize that vulnerability is in fact the inexhaustible source of power, because it connects us with what is most authentic in the us, our common humanity. This is a journey of self-discovery, because it is more challenging, as it reveals a profound beauty in the simplicity of being who we truly are, without masks, without fear of seeming different, or don't be a people pleaser. It's like finding a treasure that had always been hidden inside of us, and that is only revealed when we allow ourselves to explore our own emotions, even if they are uncomfortable at the time. And, in the process, we learn that a real change begins from the inside to the outside, and that the processing is the natural consequence of the us, to hear with attention, to embrace our mistakes as a part of growing up, and celebrate every small victory on the way. Because, deep down, that it is the most popular, and to learn to live with who we really are, with all our imperfections and idiosyncrasies, and you realize that that is our greatest strength. I now want to go more in depth on that subject. The feeling of being aligned with the truth, than to feel that we are moving in the right direction. It is something that is beyond what we can explain with words. It's an experience that touches your heart. It moves with all of our beliefs, the more deep-seated, and often challenges us to abandon things that no longer serves you the most. This is the courage we remove everything that is in the limits of the open space for the new one. It is a constant invitation to reinventemos, in order to free ourselves from old patterns. That is, in fact, it prevents us from evolving to the full. And the more we connect with the essence, the more we realize that life is not a battle but a dance of discovery, of new beginnings, and a meeting with what is most true about each and every one of us. And it is precisely at this moment that reveals itself to be one of the greatest truths. That we are free is the courage to be yourself, to accept who we are for a piece that is in constant construction, and that with every step, however small it may seem, it is a statement of self-love. When we take on this journey, we begin to understand that there is nothing more powerful than that of our own truth, as it gives us the strength to guide us, and connects us to the things that really matter. And, in doing so, we leave it to the side of the weight to the opinions of others, the expectation that we choke on the questions in the stall. In return, we have gained a peace that comes from within, in a quiet surety that we are on the right path, even if it is uncertain and full of curves. Because, deep down, this is the essence of self-discovery, a journey of discoveries, and the constant is a journey that never ends, a journey that is, at each step, and reveals a little bit of our own light. And that's the life we play hide who we are, pretending we are fine, when in fact, we are in a crisis, and the truth is that this mask only takes us away from our true power. The more we allow ourselves to feel it, the more empowered we become. And that strength is not the absence of fear or pain, but the courage to face up to them in front of you, to accept them as part of the process of growing up. Each and every scar, every tear, every doubt that we have a proof that we are living, we are there. And, by acknowledging it, we realize that the true power lies in our vulnerability, our authenticity, and our ability to be made whole, even if they are imperfect. Because, in the end, it all comes down to one simple, yet powerful truth. That is, our greatest strength lies in the courage to be ourselves. We allow ourselves to feel, you make a mistake, learn from, and, above all, of never giving up of being who we really are. And it was in that moment of recognition, that is genuine, that it all started to make sense in a different way. Because, in essence, we see that our journey is not so much about winning a perfection is unattainable, but rather to embrace every bit of ourselves with love and compassion. The vulnerability is no longer a weakness, and it becomes a bridge to connect more deeply with who we are of the truth. When we allow ourselves to feel, to open the heart, and in our imperfections, we've created a space in which the authenticity of flowers. It's as if, when you accepted our not, our fears and our doubts, we are laying the foundation for a true transformation. And this base is built with the courage to show, to display, to take the risk, even with no guarantee of success. Because, deep down, that prevents us from moving forward is often not the external circumstances but on our own strength to be vulnerable, to accept that we are not perfect, and it's okay to make mistakes. And, if you notice this, all the skins are beginning to fall, and the world seemed to be just as heavy, if that makes it more lightweight, because we came to understand the beauty in our humanity. In the process, we discover that the strength is not the absence of fear or pain, but in order to move forward in spite of them. It is as if, by accepting our imperfections, we are releasing the energy that has always been there, waiting to be recognized and used as a fuel for our development. True freedom is born out of that in-depth understanding of who we are in full on our incompleteness. Our scars do not define us as a people injured, but as a survivor, doing what they carry the stories of resilience and hope. And then, when you connect with that truth, we can begin to see the world through a new lens, a lens that enhances the authenticity of the above to any social convention or expectation on the outside. It is this authenticity that we felt, that we feel more alive, more in line with who you really are. Every decision, every step you take, then becomes an expression of that courage to be who we truly are without fear of judgment or failure. And, in it, we realize that all the things that seemed to be an obstacle, it turned out to be an opportunity in disguise of a challenge. Because, when you look into it, we found a quiet strength, a light that never goes out, even in the blackest moments. In this light, it is our essence, our truth, which, when embraced, can turn any shadow into a learning process, pain and wisdom. And so, we begin to understand that life is a journey of self-discovery, where every step takes us closer to our essence, more pure, more true, and more for free. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, when you think about all of this, we realize that the quest for authenticity is not something we do just once, but daily exercise, and a conscious decision for us to reconnect with who you really are. This is a standing invitation to come back to the heart to hear the whispers are silent, that remind us of our lives, even when the outside world tries to divert us from the path. And, in the process, we have learned that authenticity is like a seed which, when planted with love and care to grow strong and resilient, able to weather any storm. This is the strength that arises from within, out of a heart that is open and vulnerable. It's what sustains us in times of need, the thing that reminds us that even in the face of adversity, we stay true to yourself. And when you do that, let's go, realizing that our life gets a meaning that is deeper, more closely aligned with the things that really matter for our own growth, our development, our awakening to a new way of life, the most real, the most full. It is in this recognition that we find the courage to keep going, knowing that every step you take, no matter how small, it is a reaffirmation of our lives, a constant reminder that you are whole, even in our imperfection. And, during this time, many of the times we come across with any questions you have, and with the moments of silence that seems to scream louder than that of our own inner voices. Yet, it is precisely in these moments that we can choose to listen to what really matters, the truth, the one who touches the bottom of my heart, and that he calls us to be even more thorough, more authentic. When we allow ourselves to listen to that voice, you start to realize that everything around us is a reflection of what we carry in ourselves from the inside out. And so, the journey to become a power in our choices, our beliefs, and the boundaries that too often we do not perceive. It is as if each and every decision is an opportunity to let go of a story that does not represent more of a story than we have been accustomed to telling you this, but that's not our truth. And, in doing so, we found out that the greatest power lies in our ability to rewrite history, to put ourselves in charge of our own destiny, to be able to choose who you really want to be, regardless of outside expectations. Because, at the end of the day, authenticity, it's a form of self-love, in a statement, silently, that we are enough exactly as you are, and that is our greatest strength. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, when you think about all of this, we've noticed that this is a journey of authenticity, it's also a journey of self-discovery, and a continuous discovery of who we are, beyond the mask, beyond the opinions of others, in addition to the expectations that have been laid down. It is an invitation to jump in the deep end, so to explore our own shadows and highlights, and find that both are part of the same universe, and that is our very essence. When one is freed from the bondage of the trial, both the external and connected with the truth, we begin to realize that each and every difficult moment, every doubt, every fear, it's an opportunity for growth, and the strengthening of the internal. Because, in this way, we learn that true strength is not the absence of vulnerability, but it's the courage to carry it with grace and hope, knowing that she is the one who connects us to the universe of possibilities that exists in all of us. Therefore, the real is still a long way off, and it becomes a natural, spontaneous expression of our true selves. And when we live well, we understand that our greatest freedom is to be true to our own hearts, even if this means swimming against the tide, to challenge what's comfortable or safe. After all, it is the fact that we carry it within us, it is the compass more reliable, for a life that is more in tune, more honest, more of us. And, in the awakening, there is a sense of peace, wholeness, and connection with, the most important thing to be whole, perfect, authentic, and free. He comments that I came to realize the truth. And in that moment of awakening when we see, in addition to the superficialities than ever before on the Segavam, something of a silent, almost invisible, it is revealed in the deepest core of our being, the courage to face your own truth, no matter how difficult it may be. It is as if, during the course of the year, we loaded up a mask for the sake of convenience, or of fear, we could not show us the full, to acknowledge our own weaknesses, our doubts, our desires, the more invisible. And all of a sudden, the subnet mask began to fall, slowly, almost like a dry leaf in the wind, taking away the layers of illusion that you have created to protect us. It's a sense of freedom, but also of vulnerability, because, as we expose in our own light, and, inevitably, in the face of our darkness. And all this is happening at a pace that feels natural, as if it were the universe is inviting you to a meeting, more true to who we really are, without filters, without the mask, without the mask. In the process, you start to realize that life doesn't have to be a constant battle going on in order to please others, or to hide it, what we consider to be flawed. In fact, it is on the acceptance of imperfection that we find our strength is the most authentic. And this force, in turn, will give you the courage to make decisions that before would have seemed impossible, because they are the most real, the most closely aligned with our essence. It's as if, when we dive deep within ourselves and see what all the struggle, all the toughness, he was, in fact, be an attempt to deny our own truth. When we resist, we make it lighter, more flexible, more real. And then we realize that what really matters is not what other people think about it, but what we know, what we believe, what makes us vibrate to the truth. Each choice is made in this place, the more real it is a seed to be planted out in the direction of our own freedom. And that freedom is not a state of perfection, but the continued acceptance of who we are, a mosaic of experiences, emotions, successes, and failures. This is a mosaic that you find on our authenticity. It makes one of a kind. And, at the same time, it's this authenticity that connects people with each other in a way that is more profound, more real. Because, as we show what we are, and not be afraid, we create bridges of empathy and understanding through the masks, and the differences are skin deep. And then, all of a voyage of self-discovery, it becomes a sort of dance, a choreography, a silent surrender, courage, self-love. In the background, the search for authenticity is a journey of self-discovery. They will never end, because we are in a constant state of evolution. Each layer that you peel reveals a more profound, and with each revelation brings a new opportunity to be healthy for ourselves. But to do that, you have to have the courage to face up to what you really feel, and to question our own truths, to let go of what limits us, or for us to hold. And, in it, we realize that our greatest strength comes from within. A connection is honest with who you are, no matter what the world expects or requires. It is a journey of freeing the inner invites us to abandon the fear of being seen, of being vulnerable, for being human and true. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, when you think about all of this, we realize that the quest for authenticity is not just a decision in the moment, but the impression of life, a way of relating to the world and to ourselves. It is a continuous process of self-acceptance, learning how to live with our imperfections, and without judgment, to turn what was once considered to be a failure or a mistake in the steps of the growth. And, in this way, we can begin to understand that the biggest challenge is not in the opinion of others, but in ourselves, in our own strength to accept who you are. It is as if, behind all of this, he was a resolute will for us to reconnect with our essence as pure, and with that part of you that knows you, quietly, that we are more than our labels, and more, our achievements or failures. And, when you enable this connection, we realize that our true strength lies in vulnerability, and the courage to let go of control and accept that life, with all its nuances, it is a constant invitation to our evolution. And then, when you realize this fact, we can also understand that this is a journey of self-discovery. It is, in fact, a day of its release. The release of the standards in the trap of expectations that we have created in order to please, to an idea of perfection that exists only in our minds. The more one is freed from these chains, invisible, the more we come closer to a state of peace, so genuine, that does not depend on the external conditions, but also a lightness to the interior. And it's this lightness, this is the one that gives us the strength to move forward, even in the face of all obstacles, because we are aligned with who we really are. It's an eye-opener for the life that beats within each and every one of us. It's a reminder that, no matter how difficult the times, there is always a chance to start over, to rediscover the simplicity of who you are, without the mask, just the fact that it lives in us. And in this time of study, I want to encourage you to think about only one thing. How many times in your life, and you did not listen to the truth? How many times do you have chosen to silence what he was feeling, because of fear, insecurity, or for the sake of convenience? Maybe it's time to look at the inside and with the most compassionate, understanding that this is a process of reconnect Iron with his humanity is on a journey of courage, but also of self-love. Because, deep down, this is all a matter of, if you allow yourself to be who you really are, without guilt, without shame, without fear, to show the colors more vibrant. And when you do that, you start to realize that your life becomes a stage for the truest, where you can act with freedom, authenticity, and above all with an open heart. And, at this stage, our main role is to be, simply, that we ourselves, with all our imperfections and idiosyncrasies, because that is our beauty, our truth, our power. He comments that I came to realize the truth. And in that moment when we understand that authenticity is of the greatest weapon of our true selves within us seems to be getting to the next level. It is as if a curtain was slowly lifted up, revealing a stage in the unseen, where we were, but a lot of times, we were not able to look for the cause of the noise is external to the expectations of others, to our own questions. And that's when you realize that every decision, every choice, every act of courage is to be who you really are, and it's a kind of a silent revolution that is going on inside of us. A revolution is that you don't need to shout, they don't seek recognition, but it transforms our relationship to the world, to each other and especially to ourselves. Because, deep down, the biggest conflict they had many of the times, it is not the external but the internal, not only in our own minds, and in our own voice, who dares to doubt, and to put the brakes on to convince them that we are not enough. And it is at this point that the understanding of our vulnerability, that is, in fact, is our greatest strength, and it becomes a gateway to an authentic freedom. When we try to please, to fit in the mold is preset, so we had to listen to what it truly touches our hearts, it changes to look like. Suddenly, what seemed to be a scary one, turns out to be an opportunity to actually connect with our inner selves. Each and every scar, every mistake, every moment of doubt, it shall be a fundamental part of our history, a part that makes up the mosaic of a single we. And, more than that, this is a journey of self-discovery, teaching us that no one other than ourselves you can set up that is either true or valid. It is a discovery that challenges all of the fear, and it challenges the trial, which challenges what society tries to impose standard of success or happiness. Because, deep down, the real freedom is to take over who you are, without the mask, without the mask, without the mask, without the mask. And, in doing so, we realize that life is no longer a constant struggle against that which we cannot control, and it turns out to be a dance acceptance, learning, and development. A dance that invites us to look inward, to listen to the silence. He reveals to us the recognition of our own voices. They will cry out for authenticity. And, in the process, we have found that the greatest change happens when we accept that our worth is not dependent on what other people think, but it's the love that we have for ourselves. Thus, each step taken in the direction of us closer to our truth, our purpose, and our spirit. And that's when it all makes sense when you stop seeking external validation and start to trust in the power that exists within us, that the force that was always there, hidden beneath layers of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This would be the one that pushes us to move on, to reinvent ourselves, to create a new narrative, one that is more in tune with who you are, in fact. And when you realize this, we can begin to understand that life, with all its ups and downs, this is an opportunity for constant, in order to be free of the shackles that hold us, to embrace our authenticity, courage, and gratitude. Because, after all, the beauty of life lies in our ability to be true to ourselves. We allow ourselves to feel, you make mistakes, learn, and grow, and always with an open heart, the soul, and the light. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. And, in doing so, I realize that the quest for authenticity is, in fact, it is a call to look inward, to unfold all the layers invisible that we have, and that too often we don't even know what's out there. This is an invitation for you to see that our freedom comes from the recognition that we are flawed, but complete, and in that imperfection is what makes us unique and special, a truly human. When we let go of the burden of trying to be what we are not, we make room for our lives to flourish, without fear, without shame, and without masks. And, in the process, we have found that authenticity is not a final destination but a continuous journey, a daily practice to reconnect with their own truth, and to listen to the voice inside you that will always guide us, even when everything around you seems messy or out of order. For this journey, no matter how challenging they might seem at times, it is the greatest gift, because it teaches us to trust, to love and accept yourself, regardless of what the world should be able to tell you. And so, we've built a life that is worth living, a life that is our own, authentic, and full of meaning. And then, this reflection, there was a noise of something so into you. I say to you, I invite you to leave us a comment with a word or a phrase. You represent that you seek, this is your wake up. He comments that I came to realize the truth. If you've come this far, it's because that's the message he spoke to you in some way. And I want to thank you for staying with me until the very end. Few people have been able to maintain that connection until the very last minute, and this only reinforces just how important it is to the point of our story, for those who really want to make the journey. He comments that I'm with you till the end of it. So, I know that this conversation has touched the bottom in his heart, and that you're open to keep evolving. If this content made sense to you, take advantage and subscribe to the channel. Here, our proposal is a journey, going deeper each time, more of those thoughts which will help us to get a better understanding of yourself and the world around us. And, if this video has brought to you some of the learning stops and the like, it will help to spread this message and to strengthen the community in which the pursuit of growth to be true. We are going to continue on this journey. There's a video right here on the side that complements all of that, and a natural continuation of this conversation, where we can dig deeper on these topics that we've touched on here. Click there, and we don't stop there. The next step is right there waiting for you. After all, this course is made up of many small steps, in the meetings, and the findings contained. And I'm very happy to be able to be a part of his entire career, even for a few minutes. If this is the journey resonated with you, you will have this for sure. This story is his own, and with each step we take together is a great opportunity to get to know each other a little better. He writes in, "I got to the end because I feel like the truth." Therefore, we stress that this connection is real, and that we are all on this journey together. And, of course, I hope to see you in the next video, so that we'll continue learning, growing, and building a life that is more authentic, more of us.